Hey guys, it's Dr. Devin. Welcome to If They Knew, my new podcast playground, where you and I are going to deep dive into some big ideas and hopefully create some light bulb moments on how to take your health, on how to take your happiness to a whole new level. Now, I have a big vision, a big dream of humanity living vibrantly alive, making the most of every single minute and being alive and well and clear and connected, body, mind, and soul. Now it starts with new ideas. It starts with waking up and shaking up the potential you already have inside of you. So let's get this party started. Thank you for joining me. Ready or not, here we go. Welcome to If They Knew. I'm very excited because this is a topic that I maybe had heard tidbits about, but really hit my radar last week when we had the Freedom Revival in the Heartland. And this was one of our speakers. He was actually our second speaker and jumped into a topic that really opened my mind and created a lot of conversation with some of my practice members that were at the event. So I'm so happy to have Steve Campbell here. So first of all, let's start with who are you and where are you in the world? And just tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Oh, golly, I've lived in Idaho my whole life. Been around cattle pretty much my whole life. I broke my right ankle 21 years ago, and I went to see a different kind of a doctor, and he told me to quit eating, long story short, quit eating the inflammatory foods and start eating the life-giving, non-inflammatory foods. And all of this pain that I've been going through for 2.5 years went away in about 10 days' time. I was fairly highly motivated at that point to figure out, how does this work? How do I do this for my cattle? How do I do this for the land? And then how is that going to affect the health of the customers that are eating this clean, mineral-rich food that I've been raising for the last 20 years, grass-finished beef?
So that broken ankle turned out to be divine intervention of sorts.
He had to work pretty hard. I was just somebody out there getting stuff done, and I had to do something pretty stupid for him to be able to get my attention.
Yeah, God works in mysterious ways sometimes, and brought you to one of the things that, I emceed the event, and I asked you, like, how do you want me to intro you? What do you want people to walk away with? And you said, they need more minerals and less toxins. And we've got to talk about the food source. Everyone these days is, there's lots of buzz topics out there, but you sink it down into the soil. And I think this is such a powerful premise. What do you wish on that topic of minerals and toxins? Open that up for us. What do you wish more people knew when it comes to this?
That if our soil isn't healthy, human beings can't get healthy. It is so hard to find producers, even at a farmer's market, who are consciously trying to produce clean, mineral-rich food. I liken it organic by default. I buy a piece of ground, I stop spraying, and then I'm going to grow some vegetables. Okay, so they're now organic. Versus I bought a piece of ground, the neighbor's toxins are all in there, and somebody else already removed all the minerals. I've got to get the toxins out and the minerals back before I can grow clean, nutrient-rich, organic food. So it's not just organic, conventional, GMO. The focus of producers needs to be clean first and mineral-rich second. And it's so hard to do anything mineral-rich if you don't get rid of the toxins. I'll tell stories later on, but Redmond clay, I don't know if I'm holding that where you can read it.
Like it? Okay.
Yeah, so
this is what you were talking about.
And I didn't get to tell the story, which we'll get to here in a minute. I felt like I had left out a big piece at the Freedom Rally when I
wanted to follow up. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. To that.
So, do you want to go right there right now?
Yeah. We're talking about it. Let's go.
There is it's a very detoxifying clay. It's a volcanic ejecta that went out down through the water, landed on the ocean floor, and then got built into this mountain down in Utah. Redmond real salt for human beings, the Redmond or clay. And for livestock, it's just number 10 fine salt and Redmond conditioner, the same thing for livestock. Anyway, in the book, We Eat Clay and Wear It Too, there was a lady that took, maybe this much of the clay in a Rubbermaid tub with hot water. She's like 75 years old. Her intention was to pull toxins out of the bottom of her feet. Excuse me. So she had a Rubbermaid tub, hot water, and that clay. Excuse me. And in the 15 minutes it took for the water to cool off, she must have forgotten what she was doing. Being frugal, she didn't want to throw it away, so she watered her house plants and killed every plant in her house. She'd pulled so many toxins out of her feet in 15 minutes time.
Oh my gosh.
You, if you're going to ingest it, which at some point I highly suggest you do, you're going to need to drink more water. Most of us are chronically dehydrated. So I always suggest people soak their feet a half a dozen times over 2 or 3 weeks and then start ingesting it. You can go online, or Devin, I can email you a copy of that book and you can email it to everybody you know, and Redmond is totally happy with this. We Eat Clay and Wear It Too. You can go online and download it yourself if you want.
Beautiful. And that and you can just get it on there. We'll provide the link with this podcast where people can go check that out and get some clay. But most people, it's like I did an interview yesterday with a friend of mine, and he said it's actually not what we don't know, it's what we do know and don't use, right? So like I challenge everybody as they hear this to go get that clay. Now now get the detoxing. What benefits have you seen in your own life, or what do you see happening for people?
That's an excellent question. My own life, I do another thing with the sea salt, and I make a mineral water, but between the two of those, there are so many topical, internal, external uses for that product. But barring that, getting the toxins out and the minerals in over the course of about 2 or 3 months, I could tell that my thinking was getting more clear. I was getting rid of things. Zach Bush sells a product. He used to call it Restore. It's got a new name now. I know that this conditioner or clay pulls Roundup out of cattle that are eating Roundup Ready alfalfa, and the symptoms all go away even though they're still eating Roundup Ready alfalfa. The Restore is even more effective at getting Roundup out of human beings, and Roundup. It's sprayed on virtually every GMO crop, but it's sprayed on about a dozen non-GMO crops to dry them down so that they can harvest them. Sugarcane, garbanzo beans, wheat, oats, peas.
And so I want to jump in there because I venture to guess that half of our listeners are familiar with this topic, but some aren't and have never heard anything. So if you're talking to somebody who doesn't know anything about the potential dangers of Roundup in food or how that affects cattle or humans, what would you say to them who are brand new to that topic?
Well, the story that goes through my mind is in Erin Brockovich, where they're sitting on two sides of the table and she slides the glass of water, says, "We brought some water in here for you special from Hinkley today." And they go, "The meeting is over." They won't drink Roundup. However, Roundup was patented as an antibiotic, so it's killing off the biology in the soil, or if we're eating foods that have it on it, it's killing off the microbiome in our gut, which is our first line of defense. And it's a chelator of minerals. There is quite a list of diseases that have ramped up anywhere from 300 to 4,300% from 1980 to 2011. And if you looked at the graph of those and the graph of Roundup usage in farming, they just mirror each other. So we bound up the minerals that we need. We can't get them out, and we killed the biology in the gut or in the ground to make it even harder. If you know someone with asthma, the mineral that they're missing is magnesium. It's one of the big 8 that glyphosate ties up. Supplement magnesium. You can help a lot of people. You're shaking your head. Maybe you do all this in your practice.
Well, and you said the G word, glyphosate, right? That's right. I mean, that you talk about a Pandora's box of opening. If that's a topic that I wish more people would take the breadcrumbs and go read and research about. You did mention a book. Was it We Eat Clay that you wanted? There was another. What's the other book that you brought up? I didn't have a pen because I was running around with the microphone.
So at the end of the talk, the best book on epigenetics, the air, the water, our food, our supplements, stress in our lives. The best book on that is called Pottinger's Prophecy. There's a book written back in the 40s, I believe, maybe it was early 50s, Pottinger's Cats. And 80 years later, 3 authors, I can't think of their names, they wrote a book describing how what Pottinger had found in cats has played out in human beings. I kind of like to go back a little bit. Where did we used to be 100 years ago? Weston A. Price was a dentist, I believe, in Cincinnati, and he was seeing so many cavities and facial deformities, narrowing of the jaw and crowded teeth, that he thought it must be something. I mean, this is 100 years ago. He thought it must be something that is lacking in our diet or our environment. It was just at the time in the 30s where you could get on a plane and go around the world. And so he found 15 groups of people still eating the old way, nothing modern, Western processed in their diet. It was how they grew and prepared their food. There was no rhyme or reason to the fat, protein, carbohydrate. Minimum fat was 30%. Eskimos were 80%. The common denominator in the 1930s was that all 15 groups were getting 5 to 10 times the vitamins and minerals. I didn't even realize I had sea salt sitting right here. That the average American was getting. Well, we don't get half of that today, maybe a third or a quarter. There's other stories there. Do you want to go a certain direction here? Or?
Show us your salt again. What kind of salt?
Well, this is just Redmond real salt. It's a specific veins in the mine. The livestock stuff is more red. But Himalayan salt, Salzburg, there's a mine in Kansas that independent salt that I really like. I like the underground ones because the Vikings throwing their trash overboard and the Fukushima cloud did not pollute any of those sources of quote unquote sea salt. They were old ocean floors. And,
so in our culture, we've heard salt's bad.
Salt that has lost its taste is not good for any animals or the dung heap. I can't quite remember how it says in the Bible, but if there are no minerals, salt is bad for you. Dr. David Brownstein wrote a book, Salt Your Way to Health. And plain white salt raises your blood pressure. Sea salt, mineral salt, maybe that'd be the better term, mineral salt, actually regulates blood pressure. We have figured out a way with cattle and with humans. While I'm right there, I don't know if you can see, Devin, tell me when you can see the sediment in the bottom of this.
Yep.
Okay, so I just put just a teaspoon of sea salt in there earlier this morning, and you give it 2, 4, 6 hours, and then you very carefully take this one and pour it into another container until you start to see some of that sediment, and then you stop. You throw this one away. Well, now we have 92 minerals in nature's balance. There's no excess anything. All of that is down in the bottom, and it doesn't matter whether you buy $1.70 a bag independent salt from Canopolis, Kansas, or $10,000 a ton Himalayan salt. When you do this, the clear portion is exactly the same with all of them. Okay. Anyway, when I started drinking about a pint of this a day, I'd wake up in the morning and take 6 or 8 swallows straight, because I was seeing the cattle consume 50, 70, 80% of their water early on when someone would start as this mineral water. Well, they could get all the minerals they wanted without the sodium chloride content. I'm putting 95% sodium chloride in there. The clear water on top, if you don't leave it too long, is only 3.5% sodium chloride. So it has a slight salt taste, but now that is one of the fastest ways to get into human beings or into livestock or in the soil what is missing.
So you think one of the questions that I always ask is, what's an action step, or what kind of message, how could we take this to actionable for my moms, right? Because moms are always trying to do better for their family.
Oh my gosh.
This is something that moms could be doing. Do you have any other tips that, like with the clay, should they detox their kids' feet? Like what would you specifically say? Because the moms out there are working hard and they're being bombarded with all the things they shouldn't do. But how do we empower them with a few good things to do?
Excellent question. One of the things, I kind of want to back up to the clay.
Yeah.
Or the conditioner. I liken it to, it takes 500 straws to break the camel's back. If you're detoxing daily with the livestock, 2 to 4 ounces of this conditioner, you're removing the first 400 or 450 toxins out there. There's probably some difficult ones you can't get with it. I'm sure there are difficult ones you can't get. However, that frees up our immune system to deal with the big ones that come along. 3 weeks, some doctor's going to give me trouble here, but bear with me. 3 weeks before any mammal gives birth, there is a mineral transfer from mom to junior in utero. And if mom doesn't have enough minerals for junior, they start out below par, and it takes forever to get up. If she's got enough for them but not enough for herself, it turns into postpartum depression in women. If she's got enough for everybody, then life is pretty good. So what would I suggest? I'm gonna go ahead and use livestock instead of human beings, but you can make the jump in your own mind. Right. It takes 120 days to change out all the red blood cells in the body. So 120 days before the cow and the bull get together, if they're on this mineral water, if they're consuming in this case, here's the clay, but the Redmond conditioner, we are going to make the best egg and the best sperm cell possible. So we'll get full genetic expression of what God gave us. People that are doing this, they're very happy the summer that they do it, because the cattle are healthier, there's less pink eye, foot rot, the calves way more. But boy, next year's calf crop, where we've had that clean, mineral-rich interuterine environment, you talk about getting the genetic expression. That's when you really see it.
Wow. And so this offers potential for generational change. And that's what I think we're all after. And we all understand it's like what we're dealing with now is the decisions we've made over the last 100 years. And so to set on a new trajectory will mean we're going to have to ask better questions and make better decisions. And that's why I wanted to jump on with you, because this opens, here we start out, this has opened so many easy to understand conversations with you, and you really are an expert. Is there anything, oh, I want to go back to something you mentioned before we hit record. What is Kiss the Ground? What you recommended that movie? What is that?
Yeah, there's a new movie out, and it's one of the better, I'll say, environmental movies out there that gives you hope at the end of it that we can make a difference.
Yeah.
Talks about how to get the biology back in the ground by our practices. The reason that we had such deep soils was mainly because of the bison. And they might not come back to a place for 2 years. It got to fully mature again, and then they went through and it just looked like almost a moonscape. But all of that hoof activity, all of those seeds getting pressed into the ground. I was just at a Understanding Ag conference for the last 3 days, and one of the photos that was the most powerful to me, and it was the order in which they had put it out, was, well, we want to be grazing these plants when they've produced a seed head. Well, then here's a cow pie, and it must have had 100 grass shoots coming out of just it and just the surrounding area around. Well, we have all this biology in this cow pie, and we introduced grass in the desert, the Chihuahuan desert. It's pretty amazing what this one fellow has done down there, Alejandro Carrillo, just by following nature. As producers, that's the biggest thing that we need to, the biggest mindset change is to follow nature.
And I'm sure with, with my practice and being in Kansas, I know I got some ranchers and farmers watching this, and to go, I would say, I don't want to say against the grain, but sort of, I mean, it's like, how was that difficult when you started to shift and doing things different, because this is, Roundup and, traditional going through the motions. Has it, what words of advice do you have for the farmers or the ranchers when they start changing things up?
You're gonna wind up with a new set of friends.
Yeah.
And you're gonna lose some of your old ones. If you go to these different kinds of conferences, find people in your area that you can visit with. That's very helpful. I'm kind of a cold turkey guy. I went home from that doctor and I got rid of everything that was causing pain, and that day, and then I bought what he said to get rid of the pain, and boy, that sure worked. Well, it was, I don't remember just when it was, but it was right there. It was like, okay, no more chemicals. I'm going to get out my shovel or my hoe or whatever and deal with the ones that, but if you concentrate on the things you don't want, that's the wrong way to look at it. What you want to do is concentrate on what you want, and the things you don't want, as you're trying to promote what you do want, those things will just gradually or maybe quickly go away.
Which is such a great time to give an advice like that in 2020, when there's lots of hot buttons. We could talk about the things we don't want, or we could just start making a new way with the things we do. And I'm grateful that serendipity lined us up to be in the same space, because I've already learned so much, and you've given me a lot of things that are simple, right? I feel like what 2020 is offering us is a way to return to nature, to return to simplicity, and get back to basics. Is that what you're seeing too?
Absolutely. I like being out in the country. A lot of concrete and big buildings make me nervous. If I can go back to Weston A. Price for just a moment, what he found when he get to these villages was that there were no crying babies. They were so nourished that their tummies didn't hurt. The best story, and I knew I didn't have time to tell this at the conference, was he was in Peru at about 12,000 feet. He'd been in the village for a week or 10 days. And all of a sudden there's this commotion, and he says, well, what's going on? And they said, well, such and such a grandma's coming home. Where's she been? Down to the ocean. What was she doing? Catching fish and drying the eggs. Why was she doing that? So that her granddaughters could have perfect babies. We've lost our rudder. We want a Lexus or a HD TV. You know, think about. I mean, the most moving part, Devin, of the whole deal were those mothers that got up and told their stories.
Oh, no.
I get up in the morning, and what do I want to do? I want to help human beings get healthy. But this whole vaccination deal that they talked about, that's 10 times as important as what I've been trying to do.
Well, it all goes together because I think as a mother, when I go back to, with my firstborn, when I first got into those conversations, it's not that I think intuitively most parents don't want to follow that schedule and they don't want that way, but they don't know the alternative. So as more and more of us come forward, you're empowering mothers and families when you talk about the clay and the sea salt and we've lost our rudders. It's that simple. It's that simple. What we're doing, you can look at all of our stats about disease and sickness. What we're doing is not working. It's time to redirect the ship. And yeah.
Well, all we hear on TV, which I haven't had TV since 1997, is what makes them muddy, but it's not what makes us healthy. I refuse to say health care. It's after you get sick care.
Absolutely.
Well, if we can, and I'm totally serious, every man and woman that is thinking about having children, especially, but all of us, if we could drink a pint of that mineral water every day and take a teaspoon of that clay in maybe 4 ounces of water, those would be two very inexpensive ways to solve two of our biggest problems.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm excited, number one, to take this video to my practice because time is our limiting factor when people come in and out of my office and they ask me, what can I do? What can I do? And so I'm excited to take this to them specifically, but also just I get giddy because if I can change this for my kids, then I can't wait to see what's possible for my grandkids. And so it's, this is I'm just grateful to get to share this conversation with you because it's really powerful.
So, two personal stories about the sea salt. When I moved down to where I live now 10 years ago, there was a lady doing raw milk. She called me up and she says, can I do all grass A2 raw milk? And I said, yes, but you're going to have to change some things. And one of the stories that I told her was about using the sea salt. They were feeding kelp. And she said for 3 weeks, the cattle, the dairy cows already knew about the kelp. They didn't need any kelp. All they wanted was the mineral water. Well, this is like 1/25 the cost of kelp. You're right here, these minerals on average are about 20% bioavailable. In the water, they're about 50 as kelp, tetracarbonate 90. Anyway, I told her that part about 3 weeks before any mammal gives birth, not knowing that her youngest and her third to youngest had been born premature. Well, the youngest had psoriasis so bad they tried every kind of cream and whatnot you can think of, and he was just going to bleed. She told me that within less than 2 weeks on the mineral water, his symptoms were 90% gone. Okay, so this is an after the fact thing, but the even bigger story, her third to the youngest, about 4 to 6 months before I had met her, had almost died. And they said, if you'd waited 6 more hours to come in, I don't know that we could have saved her. Well, they did all their tests, and what they said was, it's like type 1 diabetes, but it doesn't respond to insulin like it should. She didn't like the flavor of the mineral water, so we were putting, I told her, we'll put it in gel caps, the sea salt in gel caps, and try one in the morning with breakfast. And I don't know, Devin, I'm going to make some numbers up here, but it was along these lines. Let's just say that A high sugar number at 10 o'clock in the morning was 7.
Right.
Okay. And by doing one of these a day at 10 o'clock in the morning, not changing anything she ate, now it's down to 5. And I go, well, try 2. And well, now it's 3.5. Well, try 3 a day, with each meal. And then she's down to where if it's supposed to be 1.5, it was at 2. I mean, it controlled her blood sugar better than insulin. Well, if you have a carrot that should have been a 20 bricks and it was only 5, you just gave the person the minerals it needed to go with that carrot instead of just getting the sugar hit.
Right. Yeah, because not just what we eat, it's how we break it down and what our body has the capacity. You and I could eat the same thing, but we're not going to pull the same things from it. And people don't,
Weston Price says, no, what we eat, it's what we digest. A lot of people, I mean, we're kids and they're like 32 bites. If you eat with a non-dominant hand, you eat a lot slower instead of woofing your food down.
See how now that I can take to my kids. That when we sit at the dinner table, I can say, all right, everybody, put your utensils in and slow things down, because it makes it's those little micro decisions, the simplest decisions that make the biggest impact over the long haul.
And the way it was first explained is if you took a 12-inch round and you split it in 4 pieces and put it in the wood stove, a couple of them, that's all it'll fit, probably burn all night long. But if you cut it down into little 3/4-inch pieces, kindling, it's going to be burned up in an hour. If we chew our food 3 times and swallow it, we're digesting the rest of the day. We're sluggish. We want to fall asleep after lunch. I mean, it could be what you're eating, but it could be that you get a real big fire burning the more you chew your food. You increase your metabolism. And one more thing, and I don't know where you want to quit, but we eat to get vitamins, minerals, and enzymes. The more there are in every bite we take, the better it tastes. We don't need salt and sugar. The more nutritious it is, and the fewer bites we have to take every day. We could probably get by with 1/2 the food that is produced in the world if it were clean and mineral rich.
Gosh, now I got homework. And this makes for this conversation. What I love about you and teachers and leaders like you is that I will be able to take this video and it will be a homeschool lesson with my kids, because they can get it. And I don't want to wait till they're my age to have the conversation. I'm just going to go back and play it. So moms out there, I hope that you just sit and watch something like this with your kids so that they can hear it, because this is easy to understand and makes a big difference for them.
Devin, trying to get that talk down to 20 minutes. I had to throw away so much stuff. I don't know. I'm happy to share the full meal deal with anybody. I could get you the big long one. And if you wanted to do a bit of a webinar with some of your mothers, everybody's looking at the slides. We could go through the whole thing.
Well, I would love to have you in December. It'll be the first of a few I'm going to do. It's called the Mama Mastermind. And that's what we're going to do, is have people like you come in and take a bigger version of what you did at the Freedom Revival. And then we're going to break up into small groups, and we're going to, action step it out of how we can apply it in real life. So I would love for you to join us for that one, or one of our 2021s that we're going to do, because I'm going to try and do that once a quarter. Because what's important for me, we can all go read a book and go, okay, well, that was great. But it's what we actually put into action and moving parts in our lives that makes the impact for our own health, for our kids' health. My mom passed away 4 years ago in her 50s. My husband's dad passed away in his 50s. My dad's not really, all that healthy, and it's lifestyle choices. And I'm determined to do better. And that comes with asking better questions and having conversations like this. So you make me hopeful for our future.
And I talk about turning off the garden hose. I was at a place up in Montana, and the lady her day job was taking care of children with disabilities. And that evening, she said, well, I'm going to give my children every vaccination out there because I couldn't live with myself if they caught one of those diseases. And I got up in the morning and I said, we're headed in the same direction. Neither one of us want to see those diseases. We've got water on the kitchen floor and you're going to wring out towels. You're sitting here helping with these children with disabilities. I'm looking at them going, well, there's a garden hose here. I'm going to go outside and turn the hose off so that we don't have those disabilities. We don't have those diseases. I mean, that was what Weston Price found. Maynard Murray was able to bring the immunity to disease he found in the ocean back to both plants and animals on the land. This is doable. That you'll have hope after watching that Kiss the Ground video.
Yeah. And I'm going to make sure that we, share with the links on this little conversation that you and I are having, so people can come ask you questions, because I know you're more than happy to share. And if whether it be the rancher or farmer that wants to talk about it from that angle, or someone that has a person to person question, but I'll be circling back to you, because I really have, one of the things about the Freedom Revival, it came together in a few weeks. And so a lot of the names I knew, but a lot of the names I didn't know. And from the second that you started talking, what I hear in my own intuition is, without this piece of the conversation, we can't move forward. If we know that these things are bad, we also have to know what to do moving forward. And you're bringing that here. So thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome. I get up every morning. My goal for the day is to help human beings get healthy. And the best way that I can make an impact, just because of what I've learned over time, is I deal with farmers and ranchers.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we're going to take that farmer heartbeat to the whole country here in this conversation.
Oh, well, thank you.
Thank you for your time. I'm going to end our recording, but also send your links, and for the books that you recommended and Kiss the Ground, I'll get links for all of those to share. So yes.
On the end of that PowerPoint below, my Tailor Made Cattle deal, there were about 7 more books in there.
Gotcha.
And this Brain Maker by Dr. David Perlmutter, you can reverse Alzheimer's. That is a heck of a book. Well,
and for a guy that's gone without TV since 1997, if you ditch the TV, you open up a whole lot of time for reading, right? So
Absolutely.
Maybe it should be a challenge to people too, of let's make more time for reading good books. And yeah.
Well, if I may, if you've got the book in your hand, somebody can't poke a button on a computer and change the wording in your book. It could change the wording on the computer. There's a lot of that sort of thing going on these days. Sorry.
Yes, there is. Again, I think that's good Lord sending us back to the basics, back to the books. So yeah, I'm excited. I'll get the rest of that book list from you too.
Well, you have it
in the PowerPoint.
It was on the PowerPoint. Yes.
You're right. I do.
If you want to share that, somehow paste that in at the end, click through those on this. Those, they're all good books, and they're all kind of the human health side of things. It's very little. I mean, every farmer should read them, but they're more directed at human beings. But 2 parallel tracks. What works here, and vice versa.
Beautiful.
Thank you. We'll talk later.
All right. All right, so now you have a list of to-do items, just like I do after jumping in and catching all of that goodness with Steve Campbell. I ordered my Redmond's clay. I ordered that sea salt, and I'm going to get this going. It's all about taking toxins out and adding good minerals back in. It's so simple, but it's so big and so powerful. I want you to go to Netflix and watch Kiss the Ground. You will not look at Mother Earth the same way. You won't look at food the same way. You won't look at your health the same way. So thank you to Steve Campbell for that, for sharing about the soil and the clay and the books. And I've got so much, don't you? I would love to hear in the comments what your favorite takeaways were. Salt your way to health. I mean, and my kids love it. And they're inspired by people like Steve because they make it so accessible and so inviting. I love that he hasn't had a TV in 20 plus years. I love that when the doctor said, no, I can't help you with your pain unless you go home and throw away all the things that are making you hurt. Who out there would do that? Who would go all in like Steve has? His health, his life, his ranch are sure benefiting from the big decisions that he made. And I, one of the things that really stuck out for me too is I said, what happens when you kind of go against the grain, when you're a little outside the box, when you do life a little bit different, you're one of the crazy ones. And he said, you know what? You'll lose some friends, but you'll make some new ones. So simple and so profound. So I would love to hear what your favorites were. And I hope that you can share this with other mothers out there, with other families out there, other people that are chasing creating their best life out there, because that's the deal. If they knew, now you know, it becomes your responsibility to share it. Thank you for playing with me. We'll be back next time. Big shout out to Steve Campbell. So good. I'll be seeing you next time. Mwah!